So in the second part, we are going to look at trends in the first decade of the 2000s. So a very important prevalent trend are private label collections. Those are really big name designers who do budget collections for H&M, Target, Uniqlo, which I particularly really love because I can afford it. So Louise Gray, who you see featured here below with a runway look from 2004, does a collection for Topshop. She's an English designer. Another extremely important trend are bloggers. So this is like a whole new game changer for fashion journalism because you have a lot of people just creating their own opinion sites online. And the youngest and most famous is Tavi Gavison, who created Style Rookie. She created a blog in 2008 when she was only 11 years old. So you can check hers out. It's pretty great. But of course, there's a whole flood of really great fashion sites. So I've included this slide because it speaks about fast fashion, and as you probably know, Zara is one of the fast fashion giants. So they boast about being able to have a 2-week turnaround to copy runway styles, and then they do it at a much extremely cheap budget price point with very cheap quality fabrics. And of course, fast fashion is very complex, and you should know about it. You should read about it in your book. You know the personal toll of sweatshops and the environmental toll that fast fashion makes on the environment is extremely significant. I'm including Lady Gaga because she not only wears designers' clothing, like early on she was wearing a lot of, while he was alive, R.I.P., Alexander McQueen, but because she is such a style icon. But remember, she has a stylist, and I don't believe in the beginning of Madonna's career she had a stylist. This is the K-pop group Big Band, and K-pop is Korean pop music. My niece loves this. But you can see they're just a huge, gigantic musical trend. I don't know if any of you are into them, but you can see there's sort of pop culture references all over their fashion. Here we have the late and very, very great singer Amy Winehouse, R.I.P., who styled herself after a 1960s torch singer, complete with a giant beehive and painted eyeliner, exaggeratedly. She was a very important style icon in this first decade of the 21st century. Now we're going to look at accessories. Marc Jacobs at Louis Vuitton does a lot of really amazing things, and one of the most spectacular was his collaboration with the Japanese artist Murakami. And Murakami just takes the brown drab background of that Louis Vuitton bag and gets rid of it and puts everything on a white background and with color, and it's just this fabulous collaboration and very iconic. You see here also another iconic bag created in 1984, actually, but making a whole comeback, which is part of this sort of nostalgic trend on Posh Spice there on the right. Prada continues to be a really big influence in fashion, I mean, to this day. And you see that synthetic backpack that we looked at before on the left. And then this really curious thing happens in 2008, a little earlier, maybe 2006. Shoes just blow up. They go crazy. And Prada's there making these amazing Miuccia Prada, right? Making these beautiful, like, tulip sculpted heeled shoes, like the one you see on the left, and bedazzled, horrible what are traditionally very funky, horrible hippie sandals on the right. Remember, she just loves to celebrate the ugly and takes it to new heights. And continuing the trend of extreme shoe wear, Christian Louboutin is a very high-end shoe designer along with Jimmy Choo and Manolo Blahnik. But Christian Louboutin sort of takes things to another level. And you don't see it as much here, but he has a habit of taking a platform shoe and elevating it by elevating what would be just a 4-inch stiletto to something like a 6 to an 8 or a 10-inch stiletto by putting such a huge platform in the front. Crazy fingernails, very much a thing of the first decade of the 21st century. A few more trends from the early 2000s: charity wristbands made out of flexible rubber, Uggs, which have continued to this day to be hugely popular, and Crocs, the super comfortable shoe that I don't object to, but that a lot of people think are really, really ugly. A couple of other trends that are still with us um, are ombre hairstyle, so dark at the roots and getting lighter. It's a fade out. And faux fur, meaning fake fur. So these lavish fake fur garments show up on the runway. The phrase boho chic was coined in the early 2000s. And as you can see, hopefully you can see, it is a complete throwback to the hippie era. And this is sort of part of that whole Coachella, backward looking hippie trend from the late 60s, early 70s, remember? So lots of layers, sort of granny chic-esque, but lots of layers and eclectic with long natural hair. Another important trend is going to be skinny jeans for men and women, but especially on men. And we're going to be talking about the explosion of menswear also in another part of this lecture. So these are three political wives. Well, Michelle Obama and Carla Bruni were politicians' wives, and then Sarah Palin was the governor of Alaska. And a lot of attention started getting paid to their dress, especially Michelle Obama, who wore a whole variety of American designers, designer pieces. So here we have Michelle Obama in a signature look with Kate Middleton. And last but not least is the marriage of Prince William and Catherine Middleton. So she marries, the Prince of England. He's in line for the throne, and it's as big a deal as the 1980s wedding. This time the dress is designed by Sarah Burton for Alexander McQueen, who had recently died. And what you should know is that she was a very integral and important part of the house, and she is now the head designer for Alexander, the company Alexander McQueen.